Is that a Supra? Oh no, it's not the good one. Wait. Before you click away and watch a glam wrencher ramrod a 2J into his Hitachi Magic Wand and bust inside of his Castle Grayskull playset, watch the rest of this video because my left hand is busy and the third gen is great.
And if I remember, this thing is going to feel like an 80s turbo. It's going to be, when we do that hit, when we pull onto the highway, it's going to be nothing.
And then
Boost.
everything.
And then everything.
Yep, you can watch your boost gauge. It sits at -4, and then just bam, all the way
vacuum,
up.
Vacuum, positive. There it comes alive. Right up to the top of the rev range. And boost. It's like it just opens immediately.
Once it decides it's time to go, it's time to go. You're definitely gonna want this.
Oh, working AC, what a luxury.
Yes, a third gen is heavier than a fourth gen. Yes, it's slower. Yes, its engine is weaker. Yes, it doesn't exist in popular culture. But if the third generation Toyota Supra wasn't successful in the United States, Toyota would have noped out of the North American luxury sports car market, and the Celica would have become the highest tier sports car offered by Toyota, maybe the MR2 as well. Now, what is the third gen? The third gen is a 2+2 front engine, rear drive fastback coupe built to haul luggage and carry its driver and front passenger in comfort and carry its two rear passengers in torturous misery. The chassis code of the third gen Supra is called A70, which you can use to refer to your car and not have to say, I have a Supra, just not that Supra. In the same way, chemists have to say, I'm a doctor, but not that kind of doctor. Shout out to my lifelong friend Tom for giving me that joke. Side note, before starting RCR, my career goals included going to Indiana University of Pennsylvania for a PhD in rhetoric and composition. That would have made me Dr. Regular. But when that was my career path, I was also a student teacher at Blue Mountain High School. I remember telling a senior this one day in 9th period when I was a substitute teacher, and he said, "What are you going to do, Mr. Ryder, heal the dictionary?" No, that's a burn. Built from 1986 to 1993, the A70 was fully manufactured in Japan. No Mexico or American assembly for this. The curb weight was a hefty 3,616 pounds, and the naturally aspirated 3-liter 7M GE engine made a modest 190 horsepower. But this is the turbo model, which gets you 230 horsepower and 254 pound-feet of torque from a CT26 turbo. Yes, the modern Toyota GR Corolla makes 300 horsepower from a 3-cylinder engine. And we can actually our way through Taco Tuesday and draw all the life and fun out of the air while our automotive autistic brains get lost in specifications. Meanwhile, our dicks gain and lose erections as we recall our last role play that involved Luna, Jax, and a resurrected Ruth Bader Ginsburg and their hot dicks pointing westward like a triumvirate of sundials signifying the coming dawn. In 1986, the A70 was sold as a grand touring car, filled with the latest technology. Toyota knew they weren't going to compete with Alfa Romeo, Lancia, Lotus, or Ferrari with their new flagship sports car. And they weren't trying to compete with the Corvette either. Now, that would be the job of the 4th gen Supra. Toyota was using this A70 to pester one company, Bavarian Motor Works, specifically the E24. BMW's 3-liter M30 B30 straight 6 makes similar but slightly less horsepower. Both cars weigh about the same, but there of course was the M version of the E24 which got 256 horsepower from a 3.4-liter straight 6 right in 1986 when the A70 Supra came out. The dimensions of the two cars are similar as well, but the E24 was in production since 1976, and there was only so much Bavaria could do to cover up all the cologne, catcalling, and pubic hair styling that is this mid-70s design. But Toyota was able to start fresh in 1986 with this sleek wedge that looked like it was pointing toward an affirmative future, just like the MR2's styling 4 years prior. And inside the A70 was all the tech you could want in 1986. Telescoping and tilt steering wheel. Cruise controls on the wheel itself. This was also one of the first mass-produced cars with steering wheel controls. Oh, and the wheel had a memory feature too, so it would go back to your settings if someone else messed with it. Toyota mounted the headrest between two upholstered pillars. And why not? You paid the 2025 equivalent of $65,000 for this. So you're not going to have your headrest just sit on two metal sticks, are you? No, make them Johns look like they're floating. Normal suspension? No. This is active suspension, active dampening. Tape cassette player? Animated tape cassette player. Turbo gauge right in front of you? No. Off to the side so your passenger can see that you paid for the turbo model. Trophy girlfriend? Nope. Non-binary life partner so you can play Connect 4 with your cum.
And I like the tires. Did you put these tires on, or is this what was on?
Nope, this is what was on it.
The Suma Toyo, all seasons, great tire. Totally slept on. Everybody wants to buy Michelins, and I'm like, you can buy pretty much the same thing with Suma Toyos.
I've had no issues. I was driving it yesterday in the pouring rain, no slip.
Yeah.
Chutes and Jacob's ladders. The Price is Right. Queefing round. Don't Wake Daddy. Scissoring expansion packed. Monopoly. The Bud Dwyer edition. The whole board is just two squares and you can only move in one direction. Dryane A70 is all stock. And the moment he got it, he stood and weathered the "when are you gonna 2J swap it" storm. He's not. At least not for the foreseeable future. A car is only original once. And he gets to experience how the A70 is meant to be driven. You drive it like a wide-body jet thundering over the Delaware River after ATC grants the crew an unrestricted climb. Just bury your foot and let the 7M build boost and build. It'll do it slowly, slowly. And like Hunter S. Thompson describing good mescaline, good turbos, they come on slow. The first 1,000 RPM is all waiting. By the end of 3,000 RPM, you start cursing the seller, thinking he burned you. And then, zang! We mythologize cars. It's what Nick and myself do. There is no Supra that can escape having all of its vitamin D stolen by the shadow of the Mark IV, because why? Fast and the Furious. The Mark IV Supra asks how granular you really want to get. What kind of horsepower are you hoping to get here? What kind of modifications will help you sleep at night? What do you need this to do in order to justify the hole it's going to leave in your 401k? But the Mark III doesn't really care about being tinkered with. The A70 just wants to be driven. It's distilling the concept of motion into a single feeling of connection. And I know, there are plenty of Supra stereotypes you can get into here. The assumption is that every Supra makes 1,000 horsepower, and every owner gets a Supra because they think they're too good for a Civic Si. You're riding on chrome with a decorative NOS bottle and a Polaroid of Paul Walker on the dashboard. You get your ex to cheat on her new man to prove it wasn't just you. I get so much cash, I have my own cut, man. The Supra carries those stereotypes because it's the apex of the meathead, track-aligned enthusiast car for aspirational poverty. Because if I'm gonna be broke, I want it to be because I bought the best Supra. And not because I backed the wrong racehorse at Hollywood Casino in Hershey, Pennsylvania. But you could argue that the A70 is an even more enthusiast car than the A80, because it's more obscure in its appeal. I mean, look at it. Other than the pop-up headlights, it's less immediately attractive. It almost doesn't seem engineered to welcome other people. The back seats hold boxes of parts so beautifully you'd think that's what they were primarily designed to do. Just help you open up a mobile AutoZone. Except clearly this was made to both separate the Supra from the Celica in the 80s and then elevate the Supra beyond it. When this debuted in the model 1986 and a half, yes, a half, the Celica and Supra were now separate models. The Celica was a front-wheel drive sports car and the Supra was a rear-wheel drive one. And they were better for being individualized, mostly because I think it would have helped avoid market confusion. In a very elementary way, the third-gen Supra wasn't just a move up market, it was proving grounds for Toyota's performance engineering. This was Lexus before there even was a Lexus. And even as it lives in the shadow of the more famous Mark IV Supra, the Mark III led the foundation for the Mark IV to exist in the first place. It's weird that all it takes for people to write this off is not having a 1J or 2J from factory. At the risk sounding like a bring-a-trailer seller, these are actually a pretty rare find with the original 7M in them, precisely because so many owners seem to just swap the 7M out. Don't get me wrong, I understand why. These things have head gasket problems. They go through head gaskets like prunes go through a sensitive stomach, so I can't really blame people for wanting to swap the engine out. But while I can't say if the engine is worth the headache long term, it's definitely worth experiencing, especially in an A70 as close to stock as this one. The only modifications here are a catback exhaust and an aluminum radiator. Now, mechanically, it's got a lot going on just from factory, not even taking into account the modifications. The Mark III runs on the same Toyota T platform as the Toyota Corona, and for its first model year in 1987, it received that turbocharged engine. The first year was naturally aspirated only, which means this also received a different manual transmission from the naturally aspirated model. This has the sturdier 5-speed R154 instead of the lighter W58 that was in the plain old NA engines. And if that isn't obnoxiously specific and rare enough, this A70 comes prior to the 1989 facelift, meaning it's one of only 2 full A70 model years with this specific appearance. 1987 Toyota Supra Turbo, the official car of tasteful hooners from New Jersey, because nothing keeps your baser instincts in check like a state with an adult outlet and a fireworks supplier on every off-ramp. But more than appearances, I think what matters here is what Toyota was trying to do with the A70. This represents a Toyota that was looking ahead to a future that extended beyond the gains that they could get from whatever fuel crisis was affecting the world at any singular time. This was Toyota planting a flag in rocky soil and trying to make it stand on its own, just to be able to say, hey, we're more than just a reliable brand. We can be exciting too. Toyota was the more boring option in the love triangle who didn't want to win by default by being the safe option. Toyota wanted to earn your passion. It wanted to deserve your boner. This was propped up to not only challenge the BMWs, but also Mazda's RX-7s and Nissan Z cars. It was a play for your respect instead of the simplistic admiration of something like a Corolla could get. Because no one could get that. Because anybody could get that. American sedans could get that, particularly in the 80s when people appreciated brands like Toyota for build quality and fuel economy, but might have not been seeking them out for a joyride. Respect is cool, but respect isn't enough when what you really want is the positive recognition that comes from genuine effort. And the A70 is genuine effort. It succeeds less because of what it inherently was, but for what it allowed Toyota to become. You don't get the Mark IV without this thing. Maybe it wasn't the butterfly, but it was the entire goddamn cocoon. Plus, 4th gen Supras are so stratospheric in price, I think all they do now is just travel from collection to collection and never get driven anymore. The only 4th gen Supras I see at mainline Cars and Coffee in Philly now is JDM ones, because they're cheaper, because they're like, oh, I don't want to drive from the right-hand side. That's all the 4th gens I see now. I see naturally aspirated 4th gens, right-hand drive with automatics. That's what I see on the road. The USDM 4th gens with manual transmissions and the 2J twin turbos. Nope, they're gone. They're going to forever be behind bubble wrap now. So because you can't get them, the prices of third gens are like, I want something with a Supra badge on it. And you know, the third gens are all right. I know it's 80s tech, but it's about as best as you could get in the 80s. So drive one of these, enjoy with these, drive the wheels off them because they're made for it. I love the third gen Supra. And if you get a chance to drive one, you'll love it too.
If I remember, the third gear power shift is, yep, that's how you do it. Let it settle, then go into third, just like my MR2. Just like the AE86 is the exact same way. All the ones I've driven to, the second to third shift, you almost have to let it dwell for like a moment.
Yeah, first to second
Easy.
is easy.
Second to
Second to third, you have to
was
let it
almost
calm
like,
down a second.
it's almost like when I shift it, it's like in my mind I'm doing a loop. I'm going second, whoop, into third.
Okay.
And then
I can see what you mean.
that slows me down enough that everything meshes. Because half the time, if I'm trying to shift really fast from second to third, I hit the gate between 1 and 3, and it's right there, and it's not going in. You have to, and then you go in.
What I usually end up doing is if I'm going from second, I'll kind of shift in and I'll almost like let go for a moment, and I'll let the shifter kind of settle itself in the middle and then push it up.
Yeah.
But if you kind of go from 2 in, push it over, I find that either don't go over enough and hit the gate, or go over too far and hit the gate between 3 and 5.
Yeah.
Yep, you almost have to push it, let it settle, and then go.
Yeah. So, the suspension in this is an active suspension, but it's predictive. Explain how the weirdness of Thames works.
So, it's not really an active suspension. So, active suspension, especially in modern cars, uses electronic sensors for the car to tell the weight distribution of, if you're like going through turns or if you're going downhill or uphill, where's the weight distributed to the car, what pressure are your coils under, and adjust them often individually to benefit your driving experience. Before active suspension, Toyota produced what it called TEMS, which stands for Toyota Electronic Modulating Suspension. And it is more of a, like you said, kind of predictive, or I should really say like assumptive suspension. So imagine you're like the engineer on a train, on an old train. You can't see outside, but you've got gauges, and your gauges say, this is doing this is doing that, this is doing that. And based on what the gauges say, even though you can't see the outside world, based on the gauges, I have to do this with the train. I have to put this more, I have to put more coal in, or to do whatever. TEMS is kind of like that. So TEMS uses sensors throughout the car to measure things like your steering wheel angle and your throttle position and your braking force and your speed, to assume what you're doing.
Yeah.
So the car knows if your wheel is turned.
No, I'm sorry. I just straight away. It's fun.
If your wheel is turned stiffly, like 45 degrees to the left, and you're accelerating very hard, then you're probably cutting really hard through a turn, and based on that, it's going to change your suspension. I don't think it does not. If I'm wrong, the folks in the comments can correct me, but it doesn't change individually suspension. It just changes your whole suspension. So you have 3 lights on your TEMS. 1, 2, 3. And so that is either soft suspension, normal suspension, or stiff suspension.
And right now we're in soft.
So if you have 1 light, then you have soft.
Okay.
So you're in normal suspension mode. So you have 2 modes right now, and they're controlled here.
Okay.
So you're in normal right now, If you switch to sport, it'll automatically go to the second.
Okay.
Because so the only difference between normal mode and sport mode is sport mode locks out your soft suspension. So
Okay.
at the minimum suspension you'll have is normal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a touring car, so if you are cruising leisurely through some windy country roads, taking your time, having a nice day, you're probably, you know, you want a softer suspension. You want the car to be agile and bouncy, and like you're driving on a cloud.
Yeah.
Versus if you're driving like you're driving right now, you don't want soft, mushy suspension.
So I'm in normal, but I can't click this anymore to go to sport.
No. So you can't lock the suspension in stiff.
Oh.
So
Okay.
Thames is always working.
Mm-hmm.
And
If you're in normal mode.
If you're in either mode.
Oh,
if you're
really?
in any mode, Thames is
Oh, okay.
So if you banked really hard through a turn, like if you were to get on the on-ramp at 422 right now and you banked really hard through that curve, you would see the third light come on. So right now, you're going through a straightaway, you're at 3,000 RPM going 40 miles an hour, you're not making any kind of crazy maneuver, you're going to be in seconds, you know, in normal suspension. If you do a crazier maneuver, crazier, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, you will see the third light come on.
I see.
Now you're coming to a stop. If we were to put it in normal, you'll see that second light go away. If you put it in sport, that second light comes back on.
So if I'm in normal and I just nail it, I'll see the second light come on?
Yeah.
Oh,
You'll
interesting.
see it. If you start doing a more forceful maneuver, you'll see the second light come on.
Cool.
So you can actually watch that once the light turns on. Once you go through this turn, unless you go through this turn very, very slow, which the Acura is the judge of that.
Yeah.
But if you go through the turn with any kind of force, you'll see the second light come on, and that just means it's tightening up your suspension a little bit more for that turn. But then as soon as you come out of the turn,
now it's sort of weird because
interesting. It's in one the whole time.
I barely did anything. It's a set of lights, and if I have my hands normally at 10 and 2, you won't see them. You're covering the lights up.
Well, there's a lot of things you can't see if your hands are at 10 and 2.
Huh. What a bizarre system. It's
I don't know what, I don't know what exact criteria it uses or how it determines. I couldn't tell you what kind of maneuver will do this or that. And see, now you're in 3.
Hard braking.
3.
It firmed it all the way up.
Yep.
And it's still in 3, still in 3.
Well, it's not making any kind of adjustment.
Oh, it needs more input to then turn it back off again. So if I accelerate that.
Now you're in first. Yep. Now you're in 1. I'm first.
Apparently I accelerate too smooth. It's not.
Maybe.
Yeah. Cool.
I guess your braking is gonna.
This is a strange system. So it is electronic, but based on very, very limited information.
Yep. It's based on what the car is doing. So it's not measuring your
like wheel speed or anything.
It's not measuring the force on your suspension, like how an active suspension.
Yeah.
We'll see like, all right, well, this coil is compressed this much, so therefore, now you're in 3 again. It'll say, your coils on your right are compressed a bunch, so you're going through a turn. So stiffen these,
This is like the equivalent of like plumbers and stuff who still use dowsing rods to find stuff and insist that it works. Yeah.